I am literally like the epitome of the product of a street guy. When I say epitome, like grew up with my dad being one of the biggest drug dealers and being street. There was nothing not street about him. To the point where even coming home, I couldn't go inside the house until he checked the whole house with his pistol and came back outside and said, "Baby, it's clear." I couldn't have a key to our house because I couldn't be there alone in case drug deal something went bad. I couldn't be found there alone where, but I knew where the safe was. I knew where the stuff was. I knew the safe code. He's like, if they come, you give it to them. So like a movie, but dad transitioned like your dad, not to ministry, but just to being a family man and being a man who owns businesses and makes good money. And so best friends was a dad, kind of how you're saying with your girls, where he put me up on game, told me if you meet a man who looks, smells, thinks, has any resemblance of me, it's a no. Don't bring him home. Don't date him, run, nothing. And he's told me that, he said, baby, God makes 3 men, either an excellent father, horrible man, or excellent husband, horrible father, or you're blessed to get both. And he said, make sure that you get, if you have to choose one, you get the man who's a better husband than a father. Because as a woman, that'll benefit you as a woman, because a man is going to be there for their kids at the level that they love the mom. And I find that to be, you could disagree, but I find that to be very true, meaning the father usually loves that child at the level that it loves that mama. And so that's why men with multiple baby mamas, I'm not saying for you, you can kind of see where the favoritism or the time goes based on the love and respect they have for that woman. And my dad's a good father. There's 6 of us by 5 different women. And he's a good father to all of us. He's a man of your cloth.
But I would say I would just, because I definitely want to give you the opportunity to tell your story and your journey. But I would just add to that, because
So, of course, I already have an issue with what she just said. I don't think that is true across the board. I do think that there are men who do love their children. And sometimes even when you're married, you can love the children more than your spouse. That happens quite often. I would be concerned. I guess her dad was trying to help her. Like, if you have to pick a man, if you're, destined, if you're like aspiring to be married, like most people seem to be in this country, then pick a husband. But I don't know. I'm just concerned about that. Like, why does there have to be a choice? I would be grossed out that, and I mean a serious ick, that my husband is only a good father to our children based on the level of how much he loves me. That's just yuck. Like, I don't know how to explain the ick that I feel. Because I feel like my children's relationship with their father is very sacred and very divine, and I don't even see myself as a part of that. That's why you're able to have children with multiple people, because the relationship between the child and the parent is so special. It doesn't, like, if they love you, they love you. If they're going to be a good spouse, they're going to be a good spouse. If they're not, they're not. But a child is innocent and vulnerable and didn't ask to come here, even though to some degree they did, but it's a long story. Soul contract. But, like, that child does not know yet that they asked to be here. If you understand what I'm saying. If you're spiritual, you'll get it. And so in knowing that, I feel like as adults, it's our job to protect them at all costs. Like, I don't know, I just feel very uncomfortable. I don't like it when people seem to not be protecting children. I don't know. I've always loved children so much, even since I was like a kid myself, like a teenager myself. I've always loved kids a lot, and I always feel very protective of them because they're children, even when they're like up to 17 years old. Or even 18, 19, sometimes they remind me of my sons because they are the same age. And I just feel like as elders, it's our job to protect and guide and teach the younger generations that come after us. So I have a real issue with that.
There's some context there. I personally feel like my children come first.
Oh yeah.
So therefore, even with
my
the
dad
mother,
feels that way too.
even
So
with the
why
mothers,
he's
like I
saying
gotta, and because like anyone who's dealing with me in a romantic setting have to know, like, all right, it's about the kids first and foremost, and then we can wine and dine and do all the things that we need to do to cater to your desires. But I think maybe that adds to why you said, like, if a man who's going to take care of his kid, because to me it's not even about, like, I could despise the mom, but that has nothing to do with the child. And I think in our community a lot of times, first of all, I've tried to be an example in that space, because we have seen men who, because I don't rock with your mama, therefore I don't rock with you. Right. And I think, if anything, that's a sin at a different level. But I could see how you can easily fall into that, because especially if there's conflict there, and if someone's making it difficult for you to be a father, all you can do, again, going back to our past sessions, is retreat, is flee, because I'm not going to go back and forth with you, because you're breaking my heart because you're not allowing me to see my child. And I can't deal with the heartbreak, so I'm running away from the heartbreak. Not really the responsibility, but the responsibility gets negated as well. But if you're using my child as a pawn, what type of individual are you anyway? And we don't care about the type of individual you are.
Yeah, so that's problematic to me. That's also a no-brainer. Like, if you really love your child, you will be like some of these couples who have been in court for years fighting over child custody. Like, I'm not retreating anywhere. I'm going to retreat my ass to the courthouse and get myself a lawyer. And you're going to be in for the fight of your life if you were to have custody of my children and was attempting to keep me away from my children. We're not going to do that. So the fleeing and the heartbreak, whatever, is just not even a thought. It's not even something I can wrap my head around. I have 3 different fathers for my kids, and I never have ever been the type to keep them from their fathers. I don't care what I felt about their fathers. I do agree with Nick Cannon on that I could tell he was about to say there's no hierarchy. Like, some people, like, when she said that, it was a shock to me, because a lot of times, like, I think like a lot of people, if not most, don't see it as, is it the husband and the kids? Like, we don't really see it like that. It's just, this is my family. And then obviously your husband is a grown man. So if you really have to protect and choose, say like the house is burning down, obviously I'm grabbing my kids because he's grown. He needs to get his, like, of course you would try to get him up. But if I can't wake him up and he's heavy and big and grown, I have to go get the kids and get out the house and save us, So there isn't a hierarchy. There's more of a who needs me the most at any given time. So even if I were still married, it would be, if my husband's depressed, we would be focusing on him, getting him therapy, getting him help. If he needs a job, we'll help him get the job he wants. If the kids are struggling in school, we work on that. Like, it never was like, dad gets his plate first. No, we're going to all make plates for everyone to eat, and everyone's going to eat together. And it's not dad's eating and the kids are stuck, because we got to make sure the kids eat first. Because they're little. What are they going to go to the grocery store and go get their food and cook it up? It's just not going to happen. So you had to make sure they're eating, but it's not really ever been something I thought about where it's like, I got to feed my kids first and then him. It's like, no, we're just making plates for everyone and everyone's sitting down and eating. So yeah, that's like something I would not ever, even think of, I'm going to flee. No, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to be in court if you try to keep me from my children.
Or if my eye's on the prize to see my child, then by all means necessary, let me run these plays. Yeah. And I got to sit in emotion or deal with emotions, and I just got to get my emotions. That's what we got to learn. We just unpacked some heavy stuff right there. Yeah, totally. But again, in any man who is a single father, who is desiring to be in their child's life at the highest capacity, I just encourage you just to work through it. Try to become as emotionally intelligent as possible, and always focus on the child. Even if you don't necessarily get along with the mom, or you're going to have challenges, you're going to have conflict, and even if she's not at the space, just try to work through it and be there for that child. 100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, because probably as 2 individuals who, I know I came up in an unorthodox household, and I appreciate every time
my parents put me first before them. And sometimes as humans, it's not always easy to put, even as your own children.
In my values,
self-preservation is the first law of nature.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to take care of yourself, but still take the attempt to put your children's feelings before your own.
And I think that's why statistically, that's a big reason.
I wanted to say this really quickly, because they're just kind of going right off the cuff with each other. That's interesting what he said, but yeah, I think, like I was saying earlier, he just keeps reiterating. I think, Nick Cannon and I think a lot alike, because we're in the group of unorthodox households, like the family dynamics. Because my family, when I grew up, my mother let it be known, every guy she dated, like, their father is in their life. He's an excellent father. He's going to be in their life. So just deal with it. And if you don't want to deal with it, you can go, where the door is. And so I grew up with my dad watching football games with my mom's boyfriends or barbecuing with them. I remember when I went in the military, I actually had a picture up of and this is interesting because I never really thought that much about, like, how my life plays, how my childhood plays a role in, like, how I'm living today and how I see relationships. And it's been brought up a few times in my life over my 40 some years, but it's never anything I ever really think about, because for me, this is my normal. So this explains a lot. This is why I do need to go to, I do need to go to therapy, because actually I do know I was going to go to therapy before I start dating again in many years from now, because I'm not even thinking about dating, but I did want to go to therapy because I do have a lot of conflict when it comes to, like, why I don't like marriage. And until this moment, I really just thought, oh, something's wrong with me. Like, I don't really understand. But now I'm starting to feel like maybe it is because of the way I grew up, and this is my normal, and it's fine. And I don't, and I think that's why I do relate more to the polyamory lifestyle or the polyamorous relationships, because I'm used to seeing everyone coming together. It's kind of like a hippy dippy 60s situation where it's like everyone's coming together and for the sake of the kids, to raise the kids, and it does take a village. And so I guess because my parents are so emotionally intelligent and mature about it, I saw that as a child, and I thought, this is great. I get to have my dad. My mom's happy. She has, her boyfriend here, and they're getting along. They're not tussling on the floor. I mean, I never saw anyone fighting ever. I mean, my dad and my mom, like, everyone loves them. My friends love them. They would want them to be their parents. So, I mean, my family, just as a whole, we always get along with everyone. So whoever is coming into the family, like my sister just got married. So my brother-in-law, which I've literally never really said that because she just got married, but it feels good to say it. And he is just a delight. Like, we just love him. And it's like, we just bring the people into the fold until they give us a reason to not like them. Okay. But yeah, so it's like, we're just a happy group. So, like, with my life now, like, I remember my ex-fiance, he's a narcissist, y'all. So you know how that goes. They like to isolate people. They like to keep everyone in their separate little compartments and never mix people together. So he had, like, a real issue with my kind of free spirit type of relationship that I had with my ex-husband, because I still was very close to my ex-husband's family. We're still very close. And I remember my mother trying to tell me, oh, because my mom's a total, like, I'm going to tell y'all every chance I get, she's a total pick me. Okay, so full disclosure, she's a total pick me. So she was like, oh, you need to let your husband's family, your ex-husband's family go, because, if you want to make this relationship work with my ex-fiance, who was ended up being an abusive narcissist. And because I was telling her, like, I was having conflict with it, because my ex-husband's family was still contacting me. We're friends on Facebook. Even when I was getting pregnant with my new person, they wanted to be involved, because those are still the brothers of my older children, who are part of their family, my ex-husband's family, no matter what happens with us. And I remember many years when I was still married, my ex-husband's mother, my mother-in-law, she told me, and I still call her mother-in-law or mom, but she told me, she's like, even if you all get divorced, you're still going to be a daughter to me. And his family taught me true love, like unconditional love. And I do feel a responsibility to his family. Like when they get hurt, like I send stuff to his dad. Like I don't really, I don't go to their house because they live all the way in Ohio. But if they live nearby, I would visit for sure. Like for sure, like definitely. And so I love them like I love my family. There were times where I saw his mom, my ex-husband's mother, more like my mom than my own mom. Because like I said, my mom is a little bit of a I think she's a narcissist. I feel like she has a lot of narcissistic traits, and she's a pick me. And I know, like, I'm very upfront and straightforward about things. So I know it may sound like, oh, you hate your mother, but I don't. I love my mom, but it took me a while to learn how to love my mother despite her flaws. Because of course, when you're little, you just love your parents. You don't know any better. So they're like the best thing ever. They're on a pedestal. You worship them. But then as I became an adult, of course, you learn more about what's normal and what's not. And I was like, okay, I think my mom's a narcissist. And I actually kind of realized it around the same time that my ex-fiance, I realized he was one. So that's what made me realize it, because I was like, I didn't even know what a narcissist was until I started dating my ex-fiance and watching true crime. And his behavior was sounding like a serial killer. And it's funny, but it's really not. And because of that, it was kind of scary when I realized, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? And so I kind of had like an ego death. And what do you call it? They call it dark night of the soul. Like when it was just a very dark place for me, you all. Like when I realized this, and then it did make my mind go to my mother's traits. Like, wow, my mom does these things too. So that's how I learned. And I was pregnant, I want to say with my, oh my gosh, I was pregnant with our first child that we had together, my ex-fiance and I. So my third son. So I was stuck. I was stuck like Chuck. But yeah, but anyways, I remember my ex-fiance just being like kind of like an a-hole about, he didn't like me talking to anyone, not even my own family, but that's how narcissists are. They want to, especially abusers as well. Well, of course, obviously narcissists are typically abusing you, but like if you're in an abusive situation, just straight up, whether they're a narcissist or not, they love to isolate their victims so that they can have total control over you. So my ex-fiance did not like me talking to my own family. So he definitely didn't want me talking to my ex-husband's family. And it was just like, okay, whatever. And I just kind of would have to hide it from him, I guess, or, go behind his back. But I did not sever ties with them. They actually came to visit me at his house. He wasn't there. And I was like, whatever, because he was like never there. I think he was cheating. I don't know. So I was just going on about my life, and they came and I took pictures and we were happy to see them come and visit and all that great stuff. They like stopped through on their way, I guess, to my ex-husband's house. But yeah, so now I actually live with my ex-husband because of the abusive relationship I was in with my narc ex. So my ex-husband actually helped me get out of that situation, which again shows that family and it taking a village, and him swooping in like, I don't want my children's mother to suffer and be in this situation. So he helped me out, and it's just been like an amazing village that we have. So now I'm basically like an unorthodox household. Like I live with my ex-husband, but we're not together as a relationship, but we raise, the 5 kids in this house. I'm in another part of the house, so we're not even like living together like we're a couple at all. He's upstairs, I'm downstairs, and we just moved. So the other house, I was upstairs, he was downstairs. And then when we moved, he bought a house. And so now I'm downstairs as like his tenant, and he's upstairs, which works fine for me. I'm totally happy because where I live at, I don't like the area enough to like want to really buy a place, but that's a whole nother story. So so this is the living situation we live in, and it really is nice. All the kids are under one roof. My older sons are able to help with their little brothers. I mean, not that I really need their help much because I am a stay-at-home mom. So it's like, every now and then I may need them to watch the little brothers, but it's like really rare. especially like once the little ones, my younger sons, are back in school like they are right now. So yeah, the unorthodox household, it explains a lot. It definitely, like the family dynamics, it being kind of hippy dippy, like just because it's like to other people, they're just like the nuclear family, the nuclear family. And I know a public offender, I love him because even though he's married, he gets it, that he feels like the ideal family would be like multi-generational family. And I completely 1 million agree. And whenever I go into other people's homes as a closing agent, I notice that like other people of all races and ethnicities except African Americans tend to be living with a lot of generations of people. So like it'll be like their grown adult kids living with them, like especially during COVID, a lot of the college kids were coming back home, moving back home. Excuse me. And then of course in the Indian households, you have the grandparents there with the parents and the little kids. So it's like that nuclear household thing is to me, very European. It's not really natural for a lot of ethnicities and races across the globe. Like typically everyone does respect their elders, and the elders are right there in the mix helping you raise the kids. And so my family is kind of like that too. Like if I wanted to send my kids to my mother whenever they're cutting up, she will step right in, or she will come up and stay with us for like a month or whatever and help with the kids. So it's a whole village, and I think that's definitely what works for me. And watching this is helping me to understand, like, okay, so this is my normal. Like, I'm not weird. And actually I am weird, but that's okay. Because if you look at the definition of weird, it's actually not a negative thing if you're okay with being different. So
Reason why the divorce rate is high because of what you just said, people putting kids first. I beg the differ, even though my dad agrees with you too. He's the dad. He puts us first. He don't care who walks. We come first. So he's been an excellent father, but not the best of men. Just being real. Me and him had debates where I say, "Daddy, I don't agree with that." He's like,
So she's male identified and marriage centered, like I think most women in this country, maybe even the world, and because of patriarchy, of course. And religion that indoctrinates us to put men on a pedestal and worship men, when it started with Jesus and God being a man, them saying that it's a he. And so, yeah, so of course she would have an issue with it. And it actually does remind me of, because I didn't like how she said her dad wasn't a good man, because he is a good man. But he's just a good father. He's not a good husband or a good partner, but he's a good man for what he cares about, which were his kids. And my dad was the same way. Like, he didn't care. We never met anyone he's ever dated, ever. And he would talk about her a little bit when we got older, but like my sister and I, he never would introduce any woman to my sister and me. My brother, I think, met somebody that he was talking to like maybe once or twice, but like, I don't know. I don't know. That's just a line my dad doesn't want to cross, I guess. And he's told us he's cut women off who were getting mad that he was putting his children first. And it's like, well, they're children. So I think it's going to forever be like a debate, like people that are going to feel like, oh, you need to be a good partner, and then kids can come after. And there's other people going to be like, absolutely not. Kids are important and vulnerable and innocent, and we have to protect them. And then the grown adults that we can get it together when we get it together, kind of like what Nick Cannon was saying. So I know in my marriage, it was the same way. We definitely put our children first, to the detriment of our marriage. But I don't think it was really, that was what broke us up. It was like so many other factors. It wasn't just like, if we like were more, say like if we were soulmates and meant to be together, then I don't think putting our children first would have hurt us, because we actually had a pretty good marriage. It was like very 50-50, I think. Not like financially, but we both worked. We both raised the kids, bathed them, went to, when we had goals, one would support the other, and then vice versa. So it was amazing. We've always been a great team, is basically what I'm trying to say. We were always a great team, no matter what status we had, whether we were co-parenting, living in the same house together, because we've actually lived in the same house together before and weren't married. We've been married. We've been divorced, but then we reconciled. So we kind of been like going through this crazy stuff back and forth, back and forth. And my mom's like, "Oh, he loves you," and I'm like, "I don't know, Mom. Like, I don't know. I don't know." And that's something I'm like. My mother like always trying to pair me with somebody, and I'm like, just let me live my life. So they yeah. So we I don't think that hurt it at all. I think we didn't pour more into our relationship, our marriage, because we didn't want to. There was like the interest was not there. We were young when we got married, and I think we just didn't really know what to do. Because I think a lot of people get married and they think, oh, it doesn't take any work. It's love, so you should just be able to love each other. But the reality is it does take work. And it took me a while to learn that and the things that are needed to make a marriage work. But in me learning that, it also made me realize it's not something I want, because it's not something I really have interest in doing with really any man. So maybe it's like I'm just not running. I haven't met the right man, or maybe I will always be like this, where there's never a man that I'm going to meet where I'm going to be like, oh, I need to be willing to compromise and do things that he wants me to do because I love him. Like I just don't see that right now, and I never had. I was never really like that. It was always kind of like about me, and if it doesn't, I know that's what it is. It's kind of like people who don't want to have kids. Like you can admit like you're being a little bit selfish, and that's why you don't want to have kids. That's how I feel about marriage. I didn't want to cater to anybody. I didn't want to be subservient to anyone. I didn't want to compromise with anyone. I barely wanted to raise my kids with somebody, because I was a single mom, like I said, when I met my ex-husband. He didn't have any kids, and I kind of like had to adjust to someone else being in the house, observing how I parent, me telling him, like watching him parent, and was I okay with that? Someone parenting my child that, that's my baby. So it was such an adjustment, but he's an amazing father, and his family as well have always treated my son like blood. Like they're just incredible people who've taught me like what true love and unconditional love looks like, and how to go about acting that out in real life. And it's been an incredible journey. But as far as like relationships, like I don't know if I feel like I relate to Nick Cannon because I do have abandonment issues. My biological father abandoned my sister and me when we were babies, and he never came back. And then when he died a few years ago, when I was pregnant with my twins, who are now 6 years old, I cried, and I never thought I would cry over him, but I did. And I think it was because, it's not even think, I know it. It was because I realized like, wow, he was never going to really come back. And I didn't realize I was holding on to that until he passed away. And I was like, wow, and it's like, okay, so I have a lot of stuff I have to unpack here, because I didn't realize like how much his abandoning us affected me. And of course I knew it affected me. Like I don't know how you can have a parent, one of your blood biological parents, that just basically reject you and leave. And he was like one of those people that's like, okay, if I don't mess with the mom, I'm not dealing with the kids. I hate people like that. Like absolutely hate them. Because the kids are separate from the parent, and it's just vile to think that way. And I think that's why I don't really agree with the therapist on this one, because I actually went through it, to have someone completely reject you because they're not with the mother anymore because they were married. And it's like, oh, we're getting divorced now. Now I'm gone. And from what my mother told me, it seemed like, okay, he's only around because he wanted my mother. And then when he couldn't have her, he was very abusive, almost unalived my mom. And so she had to get away from his stupid self. And, he was just very controlling, I guess. And so it's like he wanted possession of my mom. So it's like, if I can't have you, then I don't care about the kids. Like, I don't want to be around. It's like that. People who are like abusive and hateful like that, it's like, I just don't care about the children. Basically, like the children are attached to the mother or the father. And I see this play out no matter what gender, and whoever's doing it, I cannot stand it. Like Nick Cannon called it is like the children are a pawn. So I've seen women do it who are quote unquote baby mamas. And I think this is the stereotype that, Hollywood has perpetuated. So people think all single mothers are like that. And all of us are not, obviously. We're not a monolith. So that's why I created my channel, to remind people we're not a monolith either. And so I would never have kept my kids from their father. I don't care how I feel about them. Like, even my first kid's father, he was a total asshole. And he was one of those types. He just didn't care. He's just running off. Like, oh, if I don't get along with the mom, then whatever, forget the kid. But he always had an open door. He could have always came. We had a court order, and he did have, visitation rights. He did have custody, partial, what is it called? Like, he had cut like visitation as far as custody. He had, because most courts are going to give the fathers some custody. So guys pretending that, oh, she's keeping the kids from me, is a complete total lie. So he always had custody, but he chose not to be in our son's life. And so whatever, it worked out for me, because I feel like he's a bad parent, a bad person, a bad influence. And when I got married, I was happy to have my son see a better man, like a Russell Wilson, basically, versus a Future, which was exactly my situation. And I was more than happy for my oldest son to see a better father figure / role model to model himself after, versus the riffraff that I got with when I was in the Army and I was like 20 years old. And that's why I also hate when guys, the incels and the manosphere, red pillars, idiots, blame women, because one, you're too young to know how to pick. Your brain's not even fully developed. Like, you're just too young. And then two, the guy is typically going to be older. He was so much older than me. So maybe he was choosing wrong, because I ended up raising our son. My son's now 20 years old. So I raised him. I made sure he had a great life. It was the older guy, his, biological father or sperm donor, whatever he is. It was him who chose to run off. So it was like, maybe he's the one who chose wrong, because he chose to create a baby with somebody and he didn't want to raise the baby, and he's the deadbeat. I chose right, because I did love him, and we actually planned for our son. So that was another thing when she said that, this therapist, about her parents who were teenagers and they planned her. I know it may sound crazy to people, but yeah, we actually planned our son. So he wasn't even like a oopsie in a trap or anything. We sat there and we were in love. At least I thought we were. And then I found out he was cheating. Maybe he was doing a Nick Cannon. Maybe he was pretending to be nice, and then the real guy came out. So it's weird when people are like, oh, you should have chose, but you think I'm choosing a-holes on purpose? Like, do you think the guy's really coming at you like an asshole, and you're just like, oh, let me go date him and have a baby with him? And it's like, people don't realize the cupcaking, they used to call it. I think Tariq Nasheed calls it that, but I've been saying that word a lot lately. Like, well, I've used it another time. But people don't realize all the lying and the love bombing and the guys just manipulating they be doing the most. And people know that, especially guys. Like, they're promising marriage. They will promise everything under the sun just to get to sleep with you. It's so pathetic that sex is that important to them. It's like very primitive. And I feel like as a whole, men do function. They are low vibe. And I love that they're using this word again, because it kind of became like people trying to be like offended when you would say like you're low vibrational. But if you are, you are. And men tend to function in the root chakra, which is like in the groin area, which is low vibe. So if you look at, the chakras, like a chart with the chakras, the root chakra is red and it's like way at the bottom. And then, a lot of women, I won't say most, but, a good amount of women, if not majority, if not, we tend to be more intuitive. We're usually functioning at a much higher vibration. And so that's why when people say, oh, you must have been at a certain level and that's why you're attracted what you're attracted, it's like, that's not really true. I feel like this person pretended to be at a higher vibrational level than they really were. So you are attracting what you are because that person was matching your energy. And then once they got you, now they're switching it up like a Nick Cannon did. Like all guys, probably most guys, if not all, do. So we're going to stop with the gaslighting and pretending like women are just out here dating the quote unquote bad boys. It's like, even if he's a bad boy and he's possibly, mistreating you, I don't know. I just don't see anyone like, oh, I'm just going to go date this guy. It's like majority of the times he's treating her well. Like, even if he's like, I dated a guy when I was still in school. So obviously I'm younger, and I was a teenager. So we actually grew up together, and he was a quote unquote bad boy, but he was really sweet to me. And what you love about a bad boy is you do feel protected. So we would be in these spaces, and I had never felt like unsafe. I always knew he could, throw hands and fight everybody because he usually was doing it. But he was amazing. I thought it was sexy, and there was nothing wrong with that. It's like that's how we're conditioned, whatever. I don't know if it's subconscious biology. I don't know, but I knew I wanted a man's man, someone who could protect me, and that's what I've been brainwashed from religion and trained to think of how to think of men or boys, or whoever I was dating, whatever age, because of fairy tales, etc. So it was like, I don't know if it's conditioning or biology, like you just naturally, women know that the guy's stronger, and so you expect him to protect you or what. But that's what I was looking for. So it wasn't about, oh, I just want to date a bad boy. You're looking for someone you feel like you're gonna feel safe with. So yeah.